Alright, this is round 3 of a Tau and Tau versus Demons battle, 1850 points. It's round 3 of the one-day tournament we recently had at Sydney Good Games Town Hall. It was the 8-player one-day event, so a small turnout, but some good games in. This is going hand in hand with the post we've just written about the demon flying circus, knocking the table all the time. So I'm not a huge fan of the flying circus, as I'm sure many of you have been aware prior to this. But the demons book in general is quite random. There's lots of tables to roll on. Even when you're there, quite a bit of your defenses is reliant upon rolling a die. We've got to each demons re-rolling ones. We've obviously got the Screamer Star, which everyone's complaining about and trying to nerf out of existence at the moment. The Grimnor happens on a 3-out. If you're being a flying demon prince, you hit the ground on a 1 or a 2. There's lots of little things there that could potentially go wrong. You're relying on psychic powers quite a bit as well. And now that's not to say that flying demon princes aren't a good thing. Flying demon princes are very solid. However, there's so many rolls that you need to go through, and they're so expensive that you're not always going to get good rolls. Sometimes you do, and it's just ridiculous. Other times you're not. And even then, you might get 2-up armor and consistently 2-up cover with invisibility. But there are armies out there that can stop that. Tau, for example, Eldar, for example. If you get all 2-up cover, they're just going to say, well, I'm just going to make you roll on your 3-up armor save normally anyways. Tau can then even ignore that at the same time. So there are considerations that need to be made, and there are other cover-ignoring options out there as well. Legion of the Damned, for example, is something I just don't see happen at all, but they can turn around and poke you quite a bit and ignore your armor as well. When you get all your 2-up cover and your 2-up armor, it can make it a decent game against those. It can make it a really frustrating game for anybody else, to the point where it just seems like you're throwing demon princes at them and they either win or lose. And that's what I see a lot of flying circus players do. And excuse the really terrible sunlight, I didn't notice that before. And it becomes not a game of skill or movement capacity, but a game of dice. We'll get to that more now, so we'll go back to what we're doing here. In the top left of the screen are the 4 demon princes that my opponent has. He's got Fate Weaver and then 3 demon princes. He got good rolls, so he's got Fate Weaver, who will get the Grimnor to get a 2-up invul. He's got 2 demon princes with invisibility to get 2-ups cover saves when he touches area terrain, and he got 1 demon prince with a 2-up armor save. So perfect scenario really here to have a discussion about it, because everything, when is said and done, can have a 2-up save of some sort. Obviously he is relying on passing some psychic tests to get that, and if I had a Rune Priest, or let's say for example Tyranids Keep, there's some sort of Shadow in the Warp sort of thing that affects things. I do have the Moloch Talisman on the Riptide in the upper part of the table, which I'm just about to move. That makes any offensive powers that he has less effective, because I am much more likely to deny them. So now his offensive capacity is also being reduced because he's relying on psychic shooting attacks. The unit that I removed with my shooting Kroot down the bottom there was Cultists. They really shouldn't have been there. It gave me easy first blood, which helps in terms of how this game is going to go. There are 4 objectives. You can see one sort of shining in the middle there, 2, one's on the white line towards the back, one's on the very back line behind the forest, and another's in the building where the demon princes are. Giving me first blood is something that doesn't really need to happen. He's got all of his 2-ups that he wants, so he's got the army list that he really needs to try and take me on with, but putting them there gives me free first blood, which isn't needed. Yes, it stops me from infiltrating my Kroot to potentially take out the Demon Princes there, but that's another problem that this list has. You're relying so much on those 4 models, and if you don't have first turn, you're relying on protecting them, that you are giving up other options. If you were going to try and stop me from infiltrating there, put them further back. Put them in somewhere where they're going to get a cover save and stop me infiltrating at the same time. That would have been difficult, given that that river is actually not counting, but more likely he could have gotten some sort of saves if he grouped them more around that area, and I probably then wouldn't even bother trying to infiltrate close to them. I would have been making sure that I'm protecting against the Demon Princes, which are now flying straight at me. Again, so First Blood just becomes something else that I've got in my back pocket. And this is where I guess I'm not a huge fan, again, of Flying Circus. There's no where do I need to go, what do I need to do, it's just flying straight at me. Admittedly, the terrain here isn't the best on his side. I picked the side that I wanted, which had a big line of sight blocker on it to limit him from doing that. He was obviously able to use that building to line of sight block out where he started, which is good because then he is able to start moving. But those 2 ruins in the middle do have capacity to provide him with some movement options, and I think when you're playing a Flying Circus, you need to be using those as much as possible, because if you're not, you are really relying on dice. You can turn around and get 4 2s, and then all your Demon Princes crash to the ground. Fate Weaver allows you to reroll 1, whoop-de-doo, but now everybody's on the ground. And for Toughness 5, unless you get Iron Arm to get up to Toughness 6, and then again, you're relying on that Psychic Dice table roll to get you Iron Arm, and then pass the Psychic test consistently. You then just Toughness 5, Wounds 4 monstrous creatures on the ground, and let's face it, everybody can deal with those. Yes, you might not be able to deal with them all at once. Yes, they're not as weak as a grot in the open to get rid of, but you should be able to, as an opponent, remove those. Or if 1 or 2 get to the ground, easily remove those. Again, if you have that 2-up cover and 2-up armor or 2-up in ball, it makes it a bit more difficult, particularly when you're re-rolling those 1s. But that's not always going to happen. And then when that does happen, it makes it quite often a boring game for the opponent if they don't have the capacity to deal with that. Tau, for example, here in this game, can simply strip cover. And then I don't care that you're re-rolling 1s because you're rolling on a 5-up in ball save. Go for it. Or you're rolling up on a 3-up armor save, go for it. That's a lot easier to torrent down. You know, a 3-up save re-rolling 1s is basically a 2-up armor save. Can you deal with a 4-wound, toughness 5, 2-up armor save model? Yes. If you can't, fix your list. Here, so now basically I have 2 options. Shoot Demon Princes or run away. His options become a bit difficult as well because I'm not going to move. I'm going to make him land and attack me. If he lands and attacks me, awesome, next turn I get to shoot him. He needs to land, attack me, and stay in combat, but I haven't put Stubborn on. Obviously I don't want that to happen. The one thing I do want to protect is my commander unit. I'd like to protect that if possible, but I'm not really going to be able to do that because I did use my crew to get First Blood. So that is an advantage of having put that unit there for one of the crew squads to go plink away that. I don't have a wrap unit to come around behind. Getting into combat with him though, once he's on the ground, I don't need that command unit as much because I've got so many firepower units which hurt here. I've got 3 crew units with snipers, 2 broadside units, the crisis unit, another crisis unit, 2 riptides, and I still have pathfinders and ethereal obviously to give everyone extra shots when you're coming into me. Dropping the crisis unit hurts because I lose extra marker light support, I lose my commander who can give that utility, but you cannot have 1 Demon Prince assault them because with all that overwatching firepower which is twin linked and there's marker lights in there, quite likely you're going to lose 1 Demon Prince. That means 2 Demon Princes are on the ground. You probably lost 1 from Overwatch. If you haven't, now 2 Demon Princes are on the ground for me to assault next turn. So even if I don't drop lots of Demon Princes here now, I still have options coming up. It's not like the game is over for me. It's not like I fold and he just runs rampant around me. If I do drop Demon Princes here, now he's got less. If he doesn't want to try and get in combat with me, he's just flying over doing Vector Strikes. Vector Strikes can hurt, particularly when there's 4 of them and you're relying on a 3-up armor save like the Crisis Suits or Space Marines or anything like that. But with Broadsides and Riptides, or when you're a recruit and you really don't care that you're losing dudes to flying monstrous creatures, whatever. Continue doing that. Again, sooner or later the dice are going to fail you and you are going to fall to the ground and you are going to get shot to pieces. Even if it's not against town. Even if it's not against Eldar. If you continue to do that, your Demon Princes will get attrition down to the ground at some point. They might not as well, but then again you're relying on the dice rather than any skill or capacity to actually engage in that tussle. Now what we see here is me rolling a bunch of dice. Start off with the Markalites, try and get them in to drop things down, using inconsequential firepower to try and get that initial grounding. And then we've got Markalites to either boost ballistic skill if they're still in the air, or more importantly, ignore cover. And I'm more importantly going to be looking at ignoring cover, because the 2 front Demon Princes which I'm targeting have 2-up cover saves. The back one on the top left's got a 2-up armor save, and the one in the middle of the board is Fate Weaver, who has a 2-up invulnerable. I'm not going to look at those guys, because I need to have specific firepower there to ignore their ability to reroll ones. Fate Weaver I can't. He's going to be rolling that 2-up invul all the time until the Grimoire dies. 2-up armor save I need to be shooting with sniper rifles, the Riptides, when one's got Ion, one's got Burst, so's got Rending, and that's really it, because I want to be getting those Rendings to make him not have a 2-up armor save which he can reroll, because he's rerolling ones. I will at some point need to deal with him, but he's on my priority list at the bottom at the moment because I'm unlikely to kill him. So I'm focusing on the 2 with 2-up cover saves because I can strip their cover. And that's what we're doing at the moment. So both of them end up falling to the ground because of the extra units that are shooting him when push comes to shove. Markalites knocking guys out of the sky is a dick. That is a bit lucky for me, in that obviously he's only rerolling. He's not rerolling on 2s, he rerolls 1s on the ground, and he's got Fate Weaver to reroll 1 more. So having them both fall to the ground is difficult, but that's also highlighting the point here that sometimes things like that happen. Sometimes they don't. But because the army is so categorically built around 4 flying Demon Princes, if they start falling, the game's over basically. So one's already been removed, and now we're going for the second one as well. At this point as well, because the second one does die, he calls it. In that he's lost half of his force. Yes, the 2 strongest are there, but the Grimoire's gone. 2-up armor save again. Now we've only got 2 Vector Strikes, so he's not going to be consistently doing damage, so he needs to land. And then when he's landing, next turn, people can shoot him, unless he can stick around and tie up in combat. But he doesn't have any supporting units to bring that in to make it more likely. This is why I don't like the Flying Circus. It is hinging on dice. You can get really, really good psychic powers, really, really good gifts from the Demon Book, and then roll 4 2s. And now you're on the ground at the mercy of everyone else. And 2-up armor rerolls, 2-up cover rerolls is really good, but there are armor ignoring and cover ignoring options out there. Screw the D-weapon concept, because you always get 1 sort of save. That's the way it should be, or have the capacity to get 1 sort of save. Invulnerable, cover, or armor. But if you're relying on that 1 level of 2-up save, either cover, armor, or invulnerable, I can ignore it in some way unless it's an invulnerable. And then again, that invulnerable, I need to remove the Grimoire. And once the Grimoire is gone, you don't get that 2-up invulnerable more. You're relying on too many parts working, and then dice not screwing you over for the list to work. Yes, there are lots of tactical options, having 24-inch movers who can fly and are very durable, and then can hit the ground and assault you, but I feel they need to be done within a concept of another army. Because, or not another army, but in concept with other units. Because without those supporting units, when you're investing 300 points in a model and then you're getting 4 of them, 1 of them dies on random dies, you're screwed. One of them doesn't get anything good, you're starting to really limit yourself and the capacity that you have. Now, if you've got 2 of these guys, along with an actual concept of an army, they can be used to put extra pressure on what's going on. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave your comments and feedback below, and make sure you check out the article that I link in the comment section as well. Thanks, guys.